I'm Aaron Syme, host of the Scaling Tech podcast, and thanks for joining me for this special interview with Luisa Diaz here in Medellín, Colombia. Luisa and I talk about the tech community here in Colombia. She has a lot of experience across a wide range of roles and shares her expertise with us about nearshoring in Latin America and Colombia in particular in this special conversation. So in this video that you're watching, this is our full interview. Parts of this interview will also be used in an episode of the Scaling Tech podcast to be released in November 2024. So make sure you're following the Scaling Tech podcast on the podcast platform of your choice in order to see that interview where I talk with a variety of people about nearshoring in Latin America. But for now, let's get to my conversation with Luisa.
Welcome to the Scaling Tech podcast, where we help you manage your growing engineering team. Through expert interviews, we help you navigate the challenges of leading, hiring, growing, and nurturing your tech team to deliver the value your customers demand. Brought to you by agilityfeet.com, experts in staffing engineering teams in Latin America for clients globally.
I'm Aaron Syme, host of the Scaling Tech podcast here in Medellín, Colombia. And I'm here speaking today with Luisa Diaz. Luisa, thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for the invitation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And wonderful to be here in your beautiful city of Medellín, and we have a beautiful day here for it. So let's start with telling me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've come from a middle class type of family, but I built a career out of technology and obviously out of sales. That's what I'm probably best known in LinkedIn, by harassing people so they get, they get back to me on direct messaging. But being in tech obviously gave me a lot of, room to operate, especially on the tech side, and especially in Medellín, where I feel we have like such potential and amazing opportunities to, help other companies coming in here to grow and find, the best fit for their businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And Medellín is definitely a very vibrant tech community for sure. And I know that throughout your career in a variety of roles, you've had an opportunity to see a lot of that. So tell us a little bit about what is the software development community like in Medellín and kind of the tech community like in Medellín and Colombia in general?
So Medellín specifically has been growing as a tech hub for the past decade pretty much. So we come from understanding systems engineer as the person would, that would clean your equipment, and install a software, to having, people here producing great technology and developing great platforms for all sorts of industries. So Medellín specifically has a vibrant market for startups specifically, but also big companies have landed here. Take, for example, Accenture, IBM, Globant. They have hired tons of developers throughout the years, and they continue growing. So I think it's a market that is only going to grow thanks to, entrepreneurs and companies that are seeing Medellín and Colombia in general as a great spot to land and expand to the whole region.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. And as I've spoken with people about our work at Agility Feed and with us having operations in Colombia, when they ask, why Colombia, I've been able to say, well, just name any big tech company you know. Right.
Why
name
not?
Any big tech company you know, and they probably have an office in Colombia.
Yeah.
For sure. And so, yeah, that combination of a vibrant startup community as well as larger tech companies, great English skills, it's seems like a really great market. So
definitely. And I think, to your point, Colombia and Antioquia, which is the state that, where Medellín is the capital of, culturally, I think it offers something very unique. And if we go back to, the traditional Antioquia, person and what you will think about demeanor of people from here, is that something that, we all have in common is this passion for work. Mm-hmm. So we were taught, from since little that you need to work really hard and build a name and be somebody. So that's something that it's like very within our roots. So we take that into the work environment. So we always want to go the extra mile. We always want to do more. We always want to participate and give our ideas. So I think that's something that's very characteristic of people from here, and a lot of big companies love that because they come from traditional outsourcing locations like India, where you just say this has to be done, yes to everything, and you don't ever see them like being out there as as Colombians and Paisas, for example.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of cultures globally that have great technical skills, but do have a business culture that's a little more top down.
Yeah.
Where people are a little more likely to do whatever the boss says, and sometimes the boss doesn't have the best idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to push back a little bit or say that, technically we should build this application a little bit differently, right?
Yeah.
And I think for, being from the US, I think that's a part of our business culture that we really value is people, speaking up in organizations, the work ethic that you described, definitely. And so, I think, Colombia has a wonderful advantage of being in the same time zones.
Yeah.
Right? Easy travel, which is very helpful, compared to other places in LATAM too.
Yeah.
But in addition, this sort of business cultural compatibility.
Yeah. I like to think about Colombia as the greatest satellite location if you want to bring together like the two continents. So if you think about it, like we are right in the equator.
Right.
So we kind of like help connect distributed teams all over the region. So if you have teams, for example, in Mexico, and then you have people in Argentina as well, then Colombia makes sense. It helps your operation kind of like, communicate better. So I love the fact that we have not only the time zone advantage, but I think geographically we are privileged.
Yeah, no, and that's a great observation too about being in kind of the sort of the center of Latin America,
it's the
so
middle.
to speak, too, right? Yeah, so that leads me to my next question about what makes Colombia unique for software development, because you also have a perspective across Latin America, and so other tech communities around LATAM, and how they work with other regions outside of Latin America too. So what got that central proximity. What else do you see about Colombia that makes it a really nice kind of tying everything together, perhaps, across LATAM?
I'd like to start with what you just mentioned about us having bilingual people. And I want to mention this because I don't know about how is the education system of many countries, but I can speak about what I went through as a child and mid school and high school and college. And in here, English is a requirement for school. So I remember when I was in kindergarten having English as a subject. And that's a requirement, for public and private schools. So that goes all the way through college, where you have to, prove that you are proficient in a second language. Usually people here, they choose English instead of, Portuguese, which is also very popular, and other ones. But English is mainly the one that drives education at all levels. You'll see, for example, here that we have also schools for, that are specialized in German or French. So you have the German school, the French school, and so on and so forth. But English is definitely dominant. So that's, as I started. So accents obviously are going to vary. You will find somebody with more mild and, people with a little bit more of the paisa on the background. But I think in terms of proficiency, English is definitely a good thing and something that you will find across industries. So that's, to start. I think another feature that it's very important to mention, especially for people that is thinking on landing in Colombia or doing business in Colombia, is that Colombia is actually one of the most business-friendly countries in the region. And that means that you will have a lot of, government support, for specific industries. Tech is one that receives a lot of tax incentives and things around that nature. So it makes it easy for somebody that wants to, create a startup here or build product or do some investment because it really, it's really friendly. I think another one that I can think of is, even though we have a smaller economy than, if you compared us with Argentina in Brazil. I think Colombia offers a wide range of not only like industry expertise, but also reassurance that it is going to be like a economically stable country, politically stable, even though, we have had our, ups and downs, but I think we are very stable right now. So that's also something that, really helps, decision-making processes for, executives and people thinking on like opening something here. So I think those three things are definitely top of mind. Obviously the talent, like you just can't deny that you can find top quality talent here. Like you will find people with the caliber of somebody that you will hire in the US, for example, and it may be better. So that's also something that really drives the attention and makes people interested in doing something in Colombia.
Yeah, absolutely. No, those are fantastic benefits to highlight. Yeah, I think as as a U.S. company, regardless of whether you are trying to establish your own development office or you're just trying to recruit software developers, these things all matter. The economic stability, political stability matters a lot, as well as the technical talent and the communication skills. Now, I've had the opportunity to work with developers around the world, and in addition to around Latin America, and unfortunately, by virtue of working with people in so many different places, we've definitely seen situations where economic instability or even geopolitical stability affects ability to do the work, or ability to make a longer-term commitment, and complicates things like payments and all of that sort of stuff. So it's important to consider, even if someone watching this is an engineering manager and not the VP of global strategy for their company, where they staff their technical talent is important, and they have to consider all these things, really.
Definitely. I think, it sometimes breaks my heart because I have so many things to be grateful for, and being in tech like right after college and started to get my hands in this industry and meeting people and understand like the vibe and how and the potential behind it. It just makes me feel some sort of way, because you see, for example, Argentina, where how difficult it is, for example, for engineers to get paid.
Right.
So something that simple, and they have like so much talent. The pool is amazing.
Yep.
They are experts in specific industries and full stack development. So it's sometimes it's a matter that's really close to my heart, because I would love for people to access opportunities like the ones that I've been able to access, and so many of my friends, and that you can turn your life around in tech. So it's just like it's a topic very close to my heart.
It is, yeah. It would be nice if everyone had that sort of a place of stability to work from and grow from, because I think it's always very powerful to me too when I've had the opportunity to see people sort of change their station in life, so to speak, and open their own horizons to the world, both on the side of our clients as well as the developers. It does work in both directions too. I think our clients always enjoy, and I know I personally always really enjoy learning a little more about the culture, in other areas where I'm working also. So you mentioned education around English, and like in primary schools, it being a requirement. I think another interesting benefit too of the English skills here is the fact that there are so many large tech companies here, and many of them do business in English, that people have an opportunity to use that in a professional setting as well. It's a different set of vocabulary, at least, right? What else would you, in terms of like higher education at the university level, in terms of whether it's English skills or technical skills, what else would you say kind of about the university level education in Colombia? And are there particular like technical universities that people should look out for on a CV when they're interviewing developers?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think Colombia is home to really good universities, like world-class university, I will dare to say. One example is, for example, Andes University, Javeriana, EAFIT, which is here, University of Antioquia, the National University as well. I think those are great examples, and all of them have I wouldn't say different approach, but a very specific approach to tech. So you will see EAFIT that is really good with their computing science programs, and they also are probably top in terms of alliances with private and public organization. So they allow students, or they open the doors to students like early in their, in their majors, like while they are studying, to expose themselves to like corporate environments and like participate in research and innovation projects. So EAFIT is such a great example because they really cover not only the education piece, but they also help connect the students with great internship opportunities. They are very well connected with companies doing or providing staff augmentation services or like product development services. So this young generation have early access to like newest technologies, great projects, and obviously companies from the US. Yeah. So I think it definitely, the approach varies from university to university, but just to give you a couple of examples.
Yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate it. So there's opportunities to recruit engineers, directly from university, as well as those with experience and possibly through internship programs as well.
And boot camps a lot.
And I'm sorry?
Boot camps.
Oh, and boot camps a lot. Yeah, coding boot camps.
Yeah, that's super popular.
Oh,
a lot of companies in the staff augmentation business and, like in tech services, they do that so they can spot, really good talent before they graduate, so they can kind of like grab it and nurture it and, and bring it to the hard code type of environment. So I think those are strategies that definitely work and pay off, because a trend that I see a lot, especially when I was like selling staff augmentation services, a lot of companies, they wanted to only hire senior engineers, and they forgot about the juniors because they don't have the time to train them and So what companies like the one that I was working for and many others were doing at that time was like, okay, so let's start turning our eyes to junior people, so we can start like training them and getting them ready, so we can start complementing those senior teams with a little bit more of a fresh talent and people with ideas and crazy experiments in their heads. So that's another approach.
Yeah, that's great. And so that's exactly an area I wanted to ask about, because especially if you are only trying to recruit the most senior talent, then that's going to be the most expensive, but also perhaps the most competitive area where companies are competing for those engineers the most. So looking at boot camps is a great idea, and being able to, because of the depth of technical talent here, that we can go to more junior engineers and still have team members who can contribute. Are there other things that you would say and that a company needs to think about in terms of how do they attract the best talent in Colombia in this competitive environment?
It is very competitive. Like, to give you some context, like about 5-6 years ago, there was like a pandemonium like going here, because we were facing so many challenges for recruiting engineers. So we kind of like had different situations happening at the same time. So on one end, we had like all the stuff, augmentation firms fighting for the same type of developer, so senior developer in JavaScript, Java, like the popular technologies at that point. Yeah. Then we also had a lot of like American-based organizations hunting directly without any middleman, no staff augmentation firm, no recruiting firm. They were doing it on their own because they figured it out, like anyone can do it. So they were also like coming in here, like offering dollar-based salaries. So that's when kind of like the snowball started to grow. And then we had European firms, like product companies from Germany and other countries in Europe, coming in here with not only job opportunities, but relocation opportunities. So it was insane. The salaries were crazy. Everyone was asking for like, who knows how many millions. So it was crazy. Eventually, it got settled a little bit, so we started to change, the way that we were recruiting, attracting talent, of course, offering more of a long-term vision of how your career as an engineer could be, offering different set of, like benefits and, like changing the whole strategy because it was crazy. Right now, not that it's not crazy because we have a lot of competitors in the same region, and looking at nearshore as a way of like optimizing cost and accessing more, a diverse talent pool and complementing their teams in a different way. So competition is still there, but I feel what's moving the needle with engineers right now is the quality of your projects and your vision of like how this person comes in and play a key role in your product vision. So more about the long term and offering exciting projects and, like working for dynamic companies, like the whole AI, Gen AI and everything in between. So I think today, the scale is like leaning more towards that type of recruitment style. So coming in with strong projects, great technology, a good team to be around, a team that, everyone else can learn from and interact. So I think that's where, where things are going a little bit.
No, that's great. And I love that perspective too, because I think it's a really important one for people to remember, is that they may be going to a nearshore region like Colombia for partially for some cost benefits. They may be looking at a nearshore region because of just a talent scarcity in their home country and seeing large tech market in Colombia and wanting to tap into that as well. But you still have to, especially because it is a dynamic competitive environment here and there's a lot of talent in Colombia, you still have to attract them to you, right? And that means you can't just treat them like they're a person in a seat who churns out this much code for this many dollars. Correct. You have to attract them with work that's interesting, and I think even if maybe you don't, it doesn't have to be the most glamorous Gen AI project. I don't think, but if you at least engage the team with working with you, as collaborating with you, not just working for you, but collaborating with you on the application that's to be built. And so, that's something I always encourage people with their remote teams and teams in Latin America is work with them like they're right next to you in your office in your home city, and that they're part of your team and you collaborate with them in the same way.
Definitely.
Not like they're somewhere far away, right?
Yeah, just, throwing requirements, like get it done. No, I mean, I think it's engineering teams today are more that way than their requirement style type of work. Fortunately for them, sometimes I question myself why I got into like business major instead of like computer science. But today I think they have like so many great opportunities and again, like I think the cultural part of like using developers from Colombia, Brazil, Argentina also plays like a pivotal role into like shaping or reshaping the collaboration and reshaping how relationships with in-house teams and outsourced teams should be working. So yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Colombia more generally than the tech community then, to kind of wrap up. Tell me a little bit about how has Colombia changed in your life?
Oh my God. So it's like, it's day to night to say something about that change. I really want to be candid on this topic because it's something that Medellín, obviously, we built our fame, right? We got famous probably for like all the wrong reasons, and I lived at like when I travel outside of Colombia, and I went to the U.S. under my au pair program, which is like a nanny type of thing for those who are unfamiliar with the word. So I lived it. Like I remember in my first month with my host family, they got a painter to do something, right? And he saw me, and obviously he saw me like so different because I'm not, white, blue eyes, blonde, so I'm completely different. So he saw me, he goes like, oh my God, you look so exotic. And I'm like, cool, I guess. And then he goes on and asks me, where are you from? And I was like, I'm from Colombia. And he was like, oh, so you're cousins with Pablo and, cocaine. And I was like, man. So that that moment like really did something to my brain.
Yeah.
And now, even though I lived through, part of those years, I have like memories as a child, like going to the balcony and have, like, and seeing people like, dead on the street, to go out to Medellín and just witness like such a different thing. Like it's so vibrant. Like everyone wants to be here. Everyone wants to do business here. Everyone wants to do something with a Colombian. Everyone was, I don't know, like it's insane. So the change is such an amazing change. And I think part of that social transformation that we have in the city has a lot to do with science, technology, and innovation.
Yeah.
So that's why, technology for me is the base for a lot of things happening right now in the city, and being known for all the right reasons now.
Yeah, exactly.
And part of what I do, like, by talking to people and doing my own network work and doing so many things, is like also to educate on why Colombia and Medellin is, such an amazing thing, and try to, try to break down those stereotypes, because it's like, it's hard. Like it's something that I can't believe still, like, at my 38 years of age, I still have to, tell the story about how Medellin was in the past, and then how the transformation happened, and then why Medellin is like so cool, So it's such an interesting topic, and again, like, I'm so passionate about it. I'm such a big advocate for my city, for my country, and I just, I just love when people like you, like other, business owners, they come in here and they see all the amazing things, and they go back to their countries and they tell the story. Oh my God, I had the best time in Medellin, and then suddenly this person brought 10 people more, and then, it's like it's a viral loop if you think about it.
Right.
So now we are now having problems. I think those are good problems to have, which is like, the rent is increasing, or like, things around that nature, but all for good reasons. So that's kind of like makes me really happy.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to see it too, and I love being here, and it's wonderful when technology and business can have a very positive, effect outside of the scope of, whatever Gen AI application we're building or whatever, but it has an effect on people's individual lives, and then in the aggregate on communities too. So I love seeing that too, and I really appreciate your passion for Colombia and for Medellin, and for sharing that with us. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And again, like, I don't think you need to be an engineer to be able to access tech, the tech industry. Like this is like my case specifically. So I'm very fortunate because, again, like, I engaged myself early in my career in tech. So my first job was a SaaS platform, like a platform for flower importers. And then I also had experience with like enterprise software with a professional services company. And then I went back to a startup, they were building tech for event management. And then I came in the staff augmentation industry. So you don't need to be an engineer to enjoy the benefits of like working in tech.
Right.
And I think that's something that the government is doing really well, the local government, like by investing in public education, and bringing tech and innovation and science into like, other types of, I wouldn't call it market, but like it's definitely a different profile of people that you would see in those, educational institutions. So I think it's great. I think it's, there's still a lot of possibilities, and the market is just massive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's a very good observation. And I know I'm guilty of often speaking of just software developers as if that's the whole tech community. But in our own company, we have DevOps and UX and design. And product owners and testing and all of those roles, and all of those roles can be found here in Colombia as well, for sure. So lots of great experience for sure. So let's just wrap on. I am here as a tourist also, in addition to business. So tell what's your favorite sort of tourist recommendation you would make to people for Medellin?
That's a good question. I think, and this is like my personal perspective. So when I travel outside of Colombia, I like, to explore like very cultural things, things that you know you wouldn't find in your own country or like in the city that you live. So I love, obviously we are famous for exporting many things. Two of those things I happen to absolutely love, which is coffee and flowers.
Yeah.
So my top recommendations will be to go to a coffee farm. There are a few around, like close to here to Medellín. There's one very famous in Envigado where they explain the whole coffee process and how they harvest it and how they toast it and how they make it. They have like coffee tasting in their farm. So that's an amazing experience, and you can take like really high quality coffee, not, the famous brand coffee. No, really good coffee. And then the flowers one, that's another one that I feel it's very close to our roots. We have like a big flower festival in August every year, and that's to honor our tradition and, like our farm type of, origins.
Yeah.
So there are many farms, like flower farms, actually close to the airport that you can visit, and they show you and they walk you around and they show you, like how they harvest everything, how they pack it for exports. So it's such an interesting thing to do, outside of Medellín, because, we are already famous for being very vibrant and, and having a lot of restaurants and rooftops and and nightlife and many other things. But I think those definitely top my list, and that's something that I always recommend people to do, like get in touch with the roots of the culture and why we are the way we are.
Perfect. I love it. And as an aspiring coffee snob myself, I will definitely have to look into one of those tours. Those are always fun for sure.
Yeah,
So,
I can send you
great
the contact. Like, it's great. Like, I really love it because now we have many coffee shops with their own signature coffee that they grow and produce. So that's such an amazing tour to do. Like a spot, small coffee shops, that they have their own farm or, something like that. And do just like a coffee tasting as you would do wine tasting in San Francisco, for example.
Right, exactly. Fantastic. Great. Well, Luisa, thank you so much for taking this time to speak with us on the Scaling Tech podcast. Really enjoyed having you. Is there anything else you want to share before we go?
No, I think it was an amazing conversation. I definitely love and hopefully you can tell how passionate I am of, about tech and Colombia and Medellín, and just be mindful of the whole transformation. And when you coming here with an open mind, with like the attitude of exploring and understanding the background and just erase your narco Netflix show from your head when you're coming here. Like that's
it's not the modern Medellín.
Definitely not.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Luisa. Again, really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you again to Luisa Diaz for sharing her expertise about Colombia and the tech market here in Medellín with us in this conversation. This is the full interview on YouTube of our conversation. We're also using parts of this in an episode of the Scaling Tech podcast about nearshoring in Latin America, so make sure that you check us out at scalingtechpod.com for that complete episode, and on the podcast platform of your choice on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and that will also be here on YouTube. So be sure to check that out and all the episodes of Scaling Tech Podcast for more expertise around engineering management and to learn more about our work at Agility Feed, sponsors of the Scaling Tech Podcast, and more about our work in Colombia in particular and in Latin America. Check us out at agilityfeed.com.